Hello, Upper Iowa students. Welcome to week 13. We are digging into ASCA student standards. In fact, we are coming back and reviewing from week 2 when you were first introduced to the student standards with the component define. And we're also digging into all things SEL. So much of social emotional learning as a part of our job, one of our core domains. So I think it's important that we combine this work and talk about it together for a full week. So here we are, week 13. Like I mentioned, we are digging back into the ASCA student standards and really just circling back from week 2 and digging into social emotional learning. SEL is one of those very common popular acronyms right now in education. And so because social emotional development is one of our domains, it's so important that we dig in, as we will be leaders and advocates for social emotional learning at every tier in our buildings. As you can see first, for our table of contents, we are going to start with our student standards and the 36 mindsets and behaviors for student success. We're really going to talk about how they provide that foundation and structure to any activity, lesson, and intervention that we are doing for tiered services. Looking at social emotional learning, how it's more important than ever in our work with students. Because of that, we have teachers all across the nation buying into that work, that it takes all hands on deck. We will also look at the discussion question this week, which is a little bit more lighthearted and fun to read your responses to, and looking at what's ahead, because you are in the home stretch, which is pretty exciting, but I'm sure that you guys are feeling the tension of that too with all of these due dates. If you guys remember back to week 2, I first introduced the component of the national model, define. Obviously, one of the first and very fundamental components of the national model, but you will remember that student standards were a big part of this foundational piece. And not just the student standards, but we also briefly looked at the professional standards and the ethical standards. But because it was so early on in the class, I felt like it was so important to circle back to and really talk about it now that you guys have gotten through several weeks of the course and have been able to digest a lot more content. And because of that, with student standards being so much foundational to our work in classrooms and interventions with students, it's so important to revisit so that we see how they provide the structure to all of our lessons, activities, and interventions with students. Starting with category 1, mindset standards. The ASCA student standards are essentially helping students become college, career, and life ready. We know that all students have the right to access a school counseling program that prepares them for the future and promotes equity and access for all. The ASCA student standards serve as the foundation for school counselors' work in direct student services for all students, and they describe the attitude, skills, knowledge students should be able to demonstrate as a result of a school counseling program. School counselors use the ASCA student standards to assess student growth and development, to also create culturally sustaining strategies and activities, and really build a program that helps students achieve at their highest potential. The mindset standards include standards related to students' psychosocial attitudes or beliefs about themselves in relation to their academic work. These make up the student's belief system as exhibited in behaviors. And in going through each mindset, we start with mindset 1, and that is the belief and development of whole self, including a healthy balance of mental, social, emotional, and physical well-being. Mindset 2, sense of acceptance, respect, support, and inclusion for self and others in the school environment. Mindset 3, positive attitude toward work and learning. Mindset 4, self-confidence in the ability to succeed. Mindset 5, belief in using abilities to their fullest to achieve high-quality results and outcomes. And lastly, mindset 6, understanding that post-secondary education and lifelong learning are necessary for long-term success. Our final category are behavior standards. So these standards include behaviors commonly associated with being a successful student and adult, I might add. The behaviors are visible, outward signs that a student is engaged, as well as putting forth effort to learn. And the behaviors are grouped into 3 subcategories. We see learning strategies, self-management, and social skills. In teaching these behavior standards, school counselors try to provide culturally sustaining instruction, appraisal, and advisement, and counseling to help all students demonstrate these learning strategies, self-management, and social skills. So we can see with our learning strategies, they are the processes and tactics students employ to aid in the cognitive work of thinking, remembering, or learning. Self-management is our continued focus on a goal despite obstacles and avoidance of distractions or temptations. so that we can prioritize higher pursuits over lower pleasures. And lastly, social skills, acceptable behaviors that improve social interactions, such as those among peers or between students and adults. So how to use the student standards. We have talked about this a little bit before, but digging back in, school counselors write or select measurable learning objectives that align with the specific mindsets or behaviors, which become the foundation for classroom instruction activities that address student developmental needs. So the learning objective is measurable, but the student standard is not. So the student standard is our foundation. We pick 1 to 2 mindset or behavior standards to be the fundamental reason why we are wanting to measure growth and development within our students. We form our content around that, but with those 1 or 2 mindset or behavior student standards, we then use some of that same verbiage in the standard to write the learning objective. And the learning objective then becomes a pre or post-test statement that students will answer. And that is what we can measure based on their perception and how they answer. We're able to see if they grew within the student standards because we made it a learning objective. So the learning objective is measurable, but the student standard is not. We have to make it measurable. For social emotional learning, so much of my information and research comes from castle.org. It is a great resource, and so much of the information that I've shared to facilitate learning for our staff has come from Castle. Our work in social emotional development is one of our 3 core domains as school counselors, but I think we have learned in recent years that social emotional learning cannot just be the work of the school counselor, but it is the work of all educators. As school counselors who are trained and very much comfortable with social emotional development, we often take the lead to instruct our teachers how to facilitate social emotional learning or create these inclusive classrooms where SEL is now a priority. So we take the leadership role in helping our staff be SEL educators. Social and emotional learning, or SEL, is the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So what are the core components or competencies of social emotional learning? You will see that there are 5 competencies that make up the work of SEL: self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, self-management, and relationship skills. Within each of these competencies, there are a handful of benchmarks that make up what we're looking for in demonstrating self-awareness or social awareness and beyond. This is a graphic I've used so much over the years as I have tried to teach students competencies, but more or less breaking down by benchmark. This is also how I've tried to teach our staff about what makes up self-awareness and the other competencies. When I've done certain small groups over one competency, these benchmarks give me a goal or focus for each week that I can create content around. And you will notice that so many of these competencies are embedded in our student standards that we can easily find student standards to help us measure growth and development within these competencies for our students to socially and emotionally learn and grow. So now we are going to dig into the what and why of SEL. We're also going to watch to see what the 5 components actually represent, and this video does a really great job explaining it. Now that I've briefly introduced it, this will go much more in depth and give very applicable resources and ideas of what it looks like in the classroom with our students.
Social and emotional skills are the essential skills for success in school, work, and life.
Social emotional learning centers their mind and body. It reduces their emotional tension so they can be open to new content and material. We find that academic outcomes increase exponentially when students are nurtured, loved, and cared for, that we get much more out of them when we first address social emotional needs. So for us, it's actually an academic intervention and not just an emotional one.
If we expect students to be college and career ready, it's important for us to focus on these skills and competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Self-awareness is the ability to identify your emotions, to be able to tie thoughts and feelings to behaviors.
We find that self-awareness is one of the hardest things for young people, being aware of their own body space and the impact of their words and emotions on other people. So a lot of the work we do is reflective, through conflict mediation, through circles, through journaling, having them see their own impact on the world, and then how to shift that or make a different choice next time.
Self-management is the ability to self-motivate, to have self-control, to regulate one's emotions.
In the classroom, that may be a breathing exercise, or that might be counting 5 or taking a break.
So with students who don't really know how to deal with their anger or don't really know how to resolve conflict, we're giving them a tool that helps them deal with it in a less stressful way.
Social awareness is about embracing diversity, showing empathy for others. Activities might include service learning projects, addressing social justice issues. Role-playing is a great opportunity for students to address how a person might have felt in a conflict on the playground.
We're going to see if other people have had some of the very same experiences around bullying that we've had.
You're in my boat if you have a bully now.
Wow, I see a lot of people.
Relationship skills are important in project-based learning. It's the ability to work cooperatively with someone, to resolve conflict.
It's the one skill you need your whole life. You may not need calculus tomorrow, but you have to know how to work in relationship, whether it's for a coworker or a life partner. You have to know how to handle conflict and how to handle challenges.
Sometimes at recess, Marty would come over and just start talking about us and saying mean things.
Is it your job to make Danae's job at school hard?
No, I know it's a form of bullying, and sometimes I'll say sorry to her.
So you choose to be someone's ally and make a better choice.
Responsible decision-making is considering the well-being for self and others. It's evaluating the consequences for various behaviors or actions. We do this through shared agreements, one-to-one problem solving, or having students debate an issue.
If you were like, hey, Kashida, how much does an A cost in this class? And you took out your wallet and I was like, I think $50 would work. Which one of us would be corrupt in that case?
You're the one that's asking for the money?
We're truly teaching these students to be productive citizens. We're teaching them life skills. We're teaching them how to problem solve effectively. We're teaching them how to be resilient.
I think of all the billions of dollars we've spent on Title I and all these intervention programs, and when all is said and done, what do we have to show for it? I think we're trying to teach technical things instead of devoting some of the resources to teach who you are as a person. Once you know who you are, then learning becomes exciting because you've already established a discipline.
It's important for teachers and principals to understand that it can't be a binder off the shelf. It can't be something that happens from 2:15 to 4:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It has to be part of the school culture.
Giving teachers flexibility, giving them a range of skills, giving them different ways that it can look, and allowing them to take their own personality and match that to what they want in their classroom has been the best way to get authentic, true practice.
If we continue to do what we've always done, we're always going to get what we always got. Is that good enough? I don't think it's good enough for the 21st century. We need to be the outliers to try things that have never been tried and see if they work. What are we waiting for?
I really love that video. I just feel like it describes each of the competencies so beautifully. And I think just seeing the classroom examples and how the educators talk about it, it's one of the best videos I have found to describe it so fundamentally. Now going into SEL's 3 signature practices, you will see in different education scenarios that we start meetings and end meetings in a certain way. You will notice that these are also encouraged to do as part of classroom environments, that there are welcoming and inclusion activities. We engage with strategies, and we have optimistic closures. About the SEL 3 signature practices, these signature practices were developed in response to these commonly heard questions. But what does SEL look like, and how can we start doing SEL right now? Educators and most providers understood and believed in the power of SEL, but sought clarity about how to demonstrate and observe SEL in action during the school day and beyond. So the SEL 3 signature practices are one tool for fostering a supportive environment and promote SEL. They intentionally and explicitly help build a habit of practices through which students and adults enhance their SEL skills. While not an SEL curriculum, these practices are one concrete example of a way to help people understand and practice the goals of an overall systemic SEL implementation plan. So as a snapshot, the SEL 3 signature practices are welcoming inclusion activities, engaging strategies, and optimistic closure. So for the first welcoming inclusion activities, this is how we can open each class period, meeting, or professional learning experience. We do it with a welcoming inclusion activity or routine, or even a ritual that builds community and connects to the work ahead. Examples of welcoming activities and routines and rituals could be smile warmly and greet each person by their preferred name, a whole group greeting activity, morning circles, especially done in elementary school, interactive do-nows, such as peer-to-peer homework help. To embed engaging strategies, we can include brain breaks to anchor thinking and learning throughout the experience. Engaging strategies offer many opportunities that vary in complexity to practice SEL skills. Engagement in learning individually, turn to your partner, and collectively, like a Socratic seminar or jigsaw strategy. Those are supported by intentionally chosen strategies and activities with sequence steps that suit your group's current needs. Build in a balance of interactive and reflective experiences to meet the needs of all participants. Examples of engaging strategies could be think, pair, share, silent time to reflect, time to write, partner discussions, close with a group share out. And that could even be with the reflecting time to write, could be think, ink, pair, share. Clock partners, prearranged partners for quickly pairing up for reflection and discussion, private think time, where there's facilitator wait time, a mindful minute brain break, which can be a calming activity promoting focus and readiness to learn. Remember some of the engaging strategies we did for week 8 too. Close each experience in an intentional way. An optimistic closure is not necessarily a cheery ending, but rather highlights an individual and shared understanding of the importance of the work and can provide a sense of accomplishment and support forward thinking. The closing activity may be reflective of the learning, help identify next steps, or even make connections to one's own work. So examples of optimistic closure could be like a 1-minute accolade, something I learned today, sentence stem, I am curious about, another sentence stem being I am looking forward to tomorrow because, suit yourself, something I'll do as a result of this meeting is, something I still question, something that still concerns me. So as you can see, a lot of those could be sentence stems that you would fill in the blank. This is a great example of what SEL can look like at all 3 tiers. As we have looked at the MT, MD, SS, you guys will see that these SEL examples are how we serve all students universally with these SEL supports, how we support targeted interventions with a supplemental group of students at tier 2, and how we do some intensive work at tier 3 for 3 to 5% of our student needs. Please pause the video so that you can take more time to look at this graphic and see this done more comprehensively. We're really hoping that SEL approaches like explicit SEL skills instruction, teacher instructional practices, integrating it with academic curriculum areas, and organizational culture and climate strategies can create some short-term outcomes that in the end create some behavioral academic outcomes that are positive in nature. So those short-term outcomes could be SEL skill acquisition of those 5 competence areas, improved attitudes in yourself and others, your learning in general and in school, and enhanced learning environment where you feel supported, engaged, and you want to participate. Hopefully, long-lasting behavioral and academic positive outcomes could be more pro-social behavior, fewer conduct problems, less emotional distress, and improved academic performance. And now for the discussion question this week. I am excited to hear so many of you share one thing you're most looking forward to about being a professional school counselor, being in the shoes that you were in almost at the end of this course and others. I'm excited to hear how your answers overlap and how they differ based on your passions and your individual interests, but just where you see yourself and casting that vision for your work with students. So what's ahead? Let's take a look at this week's activities and see what is in the final home stretch of this course for you. Week 13 activities, you will obviously watch this instructor video, follow along with the slideshow link provided. I want you to respond to the discussion question I just spoke of and respond to a peer. I also want you to review the 36 mindsets and behavior student standards. And here we go. This is the home stretch. So week 14, you guys are going to be working on the comprehensive school counseling project. Hopefully you've already been in that work, working with your groups. In week 15, you are going to be sharing these projects, something that you really enjoyed as a part of the project, something that was challenging. Week 16, taking the final exam, which is essentially answering an essay question with some resources to support, and you are done. Here we are at the end of week 13's focus and content. Please let me know if you have any questions. I look forward to finishing out the semester with you.